cover the doorway as he starts to defuse. Hengu goes for one on the Young. Can he go the second?
Min, what are you doing? What just happened? Why are you sprinting, Bio?
Hungry. He gets the entry!
Oh, he's like
Moringa, are you ready for this?
Oh!
Yes! Bango, are you kidding me?
Why am I so much better than you? God damn!
Hello and welcome everybody, boys and girls, for another week of SiegeGG Live. I'm Infian Ewok, Shikhar Gupta. With me is Hunter and David, of course, as they have been for the past 2 weeks, and Hunter for longer. Glad to be back for another week of this. Lots more is coming into like confirmation stages for the Charlotte Major at this point in the season.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, it's right there. We had, I believe, 6 teams qualify. That means there's 10 spots open. One more for North America. No Brazilian teams are confirmed. I believe 2 more in APAC and 3 more in EU.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much it. But of course, we got like some of the big non-real esports stuff, but like influencing esports stuff, of course, that's happened this week is, of course, we got the Year 7 Season 1.2 patch, which means that we now have Emerald Plains in casual, ranked, and unranked, and obviously also training grounds. We have the Ying Candelas reduced in timing, but increase in number, and we also have 2 claymores for every operator that already had a claymore. Now, David, you obviously have been covering this news a little bit for the past few days. What has been kind of like the consensus and the feeling around these changes?
I think it's a little bit scary. There's a mix of thoughts. Some people think that claymores, like this change, doesn't affect a lot the game. Others think that it's massive. About the Ying, something similar. For Candelas might be a bit overpowered, especially at getting rid of, at triggering 1MI devices or Jaeger 8 devices or other kind of defense gadgets. I'm not sure what to think as of yet, but I think that we have been seeing Ying a little bit more, at least in the APAC qualifiers, if I'm not mistaken. So I guess that this is going to get to other regions. It's just a matter of time to see how it's going to, like, what impact is going to have these kind of changes.
Yeah, I think, as far as what we've seen in APAC so far, Ying really hasn't been used for her Candela effect. To really go for it. She's got 4 Candelas now plus 2 smoke grenades or like whatever she wants to bring, so she can burn and smoke off her plants a lot more effectively. She's got an LMG as well. We know LMG is the meta right now. I forget, does the LMG still have an ACOG? Because if it does, like that is just yeah, there we go.
Yes.
So like that is like another point towards bringing Ying when you're trying to clear out all the utility denial that you have on site.
I dislike Ying a lot for that very reason. Like, you know how like people talk about Thatcher is like the easy button for getting a wall open? Ying is the easy button for an execute. If you have a Ying, like, you're burning everything.
Funnily enough, I have seen a fair bit of Warden being brought like across all the leagues. I guess that is more as a counter to the smoke, really, especially in APAC where you have teams like CAG bringing glass, like properly bringing glass back nowadays. So I guess that's kind of also one thing that negates the effectiveness of Ying as going in and flashing people. If you have a Warden on site, that's not really going to work. But as utility clear, as you said, extremely good. Double Claymore, we've seen that a little bit across the past week as well. We got like a lot of windows. Instead of having 2 places Claymore, as like a lot of people would do it in like unranked and ranked even. In pro play, it's just you put it both on the same side, and I believe there was one of the EU games where Fluke noted like, look, the only chance you can do this to get away with it is like if you impact it, and even then you have to be like really good because the claymores are very close to the jump out.
There's one trick. If you are a ranked player, you can always choose mute and place a mute jammer next to the window, and then you can jump out. Just saying. But we are not going to see this in the esports scene, obviously.
You say that,
That
but
is a-
APAC exists.
That is a crazy hypothetical. Like,
Yeah.
if they double claymore a window, you can always take mute just in case you want to run out. Like,
Mhm.
I'm wondering the percentages.
That is
Yeah, it
because
is.
like if you're
But
thinking like
how often is that actually going to happen? Like, how often will this exist in reality?
it'll
As
happen
opposed
often
to a
enough.
hypothetical.
It'll happen often enough in
Enough.
APAC. I guarantee you. Like
Often enough.
one APAC coach will be sitting here in this, like watching us and listening to David, and it's like, there we go, boys. That's our strat
That's the
for
play.
next week. Yeah, like I mean, think about it. Like if you realize the push is coming from one end, the mute can just pick up the mute jammer from another end. Like if he's around there, go out, get the jump out, and then put it back. If you want, it's gonna take like 20 seconds maybe, but it's in APAC. I've come to say it's not outlandish. That's actually a very cool idea. I hope we see it soon. I hope someone's listening.
It is definitely one of those things that makes Rainbow Six Siege unique and makes it like a fun game to analyze, a fun game to watch, a fun game if you like understand what's going on. But
Hybrid
Stephen
here.
A. Smith voice.
Hybrid
Stephen
here.
A. Smith voice. However, how often are we actually going to see this? Like, how often is that? Like,
I see.
that's
I
a
see
lot
you
of
there.
time.
I see you there, hybrid. And I want to see this next week from you. All right, like this has to happen. One round. Do it.
You don't have to. Don't
You
have
gotta
to hard
do it.
commit.
Just do it. Come on.
Do it.
You don't have to hard commit to that. That's a little. That's a lot.
But
But regarding
sorry.
sorry. Regarding claymores, I was thinking that maybe we have like we see this change affecting the place that she was before, especially because Oryx and Nomad abilities have been tweaked. So
Oh yeah.
we will see how it affects.
Yeah, hopefully that works. And of course, the one that's not going to affect competitive, maybe anytime soon. We got Emerald Plains being put into the game. I haven't really seen it much outside of a training grounds myself. It feels like it's got a lot of rooms, lots of angles to kind of contend with. Not sure of its viability as a comp map in the future.
With may I hazard a take of sorts? Now that we're talking about like the Oryx and Nomad abilities being a little bit weirded. Did Gridlock didn't see any changes, right?
Yeah, no.
She
Gridlock
did,
has
she did.
changes.
From
From 3 to 4. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, more track singers.
That is a good change. And it's a good change for the same reason I don't specifically like the Claymores change. I don't like when the secondary gadget overshadows the primary one. I feel like that's just poor game design. If you're going to call it the secondary gadget, it needs to be secondary.
Yeah.
I don't like when I didn't. It was my primary beef with the utility dump meta or like the 20-second meta. Like teams were taking Hibana not for Hibana, they were taking Hibana for ADS burn. You had to take a Hibana for ADS burn. If you need a secondary gadget that much where it's so crucial to your attack, just make it the primary one. And I realize that's kind of like contradictory, like the same reason I don't like Ying. That's because Ying has smoke grenades as well, and she gets 4 of them. And if one of Jaeger or Womai is banned, Ying is, again, that gadget, that primary gadget is a free execute on the site.
Yep.
I don't necessarily think it's a flaw, but I do think it's like counterintuitive and definitely not something that like I'm in love with, especially after the Nomad nerf. But Gridlock getting another track stinger is like good. I mean, that's kind of like her flank denial. That's her primary gadget. It should be her primary gadget. It should be the primary reason why you bring a Nomad. But now I'm really worried that we're steering even further into a meta where we are bringing like frag grenades for the sake of frag grenades. We're bringing claymores for the sake of claymores. We're bringing C4s for the sake of C4s. Like that steers the game away from its like uniqueness in the actual like hero shooter aspect into a very bland, like we are going to abuse this mechanic as hard as we can.
Yeah.
And I feel like
I
that's
agree.
the difference between like and again, it's not that gadgetry play is like bad. It's not like creative plays are bad. It is when the secondary equipment clearly and robustly and in every single way outshines primary equipment. It just shouldn't. It should never.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And by and large, I think Ubisoft balancing team has got it quite good, quite right, with like lots of the changes that have been happening
Yeah,
over the past few changes. Maybe
this game
was
is a
not
nightmare.
Bad.
It's a nightmare to balance. A nightmare. I don't envy the person who has to figure out how to not completely and totally break a meta for 3 months with one change.
But what have they been doing for like the past year and a half, maybe? Excellent stuff. And good point from chat. I'm not sure if this actually our thumper, but but yeah, it is absolutely more like a grenade from below meta because of the yellow pings. It's really, really frustrating, and it's so hard to fight against. Like the only real counter you have is you send someone on the roam below, and that guy needs to fight off maybe 2, 3, maybe even a full team push, because that grenade from below will clear out your shields, will clear out your players, will clear out your power positions without losing your grenades to an ADS, which is just so powerful.
It's a mechanic that right now is probably a little bit too strong. It's not that it shouldn't exist. Like verticality is one of the things that like people love about Siege, and like I love about Siege. Like I always want to play like Sledge, or I want to play like Valkyrie from below. Like I like playing top down when I play the game. However, there's a point where it becomes like, what am I seeing here? Like if I'm a person who's tuning into Siege for the very first time, what am I watching?
Yeah, you just see like
someone
people
with a
blowing up
gun?
from nowhere.
Yeah, they're just exploding.
We had like the most number of grenade kills, didn't we? Like we tally those up, like of any event by percentage. SI had the most number of like grenade kills.
Imagine showing like a space station game to like a new player and being like, "Hey, like this is really cool. This is like how meant to be played and to like its best extent." And you see this like massive bunker setup on a soft floor, and then this person just all of a sudden they just erupt from nowhere, from below. They didn't even get to play the game.
Fun. Yeah, that's unfortunate. There was a change that was like put in the test server back in the day, like, oh, yellow ping is gonna make a noise, like similar to like how it is when you get red pinged. That change never made it to live servers. I think that change needs to come to live servers very soon. Like you can't just constantly yellow ping all the time. I saw like in this week's APAC games, like on Villa, you have the aviator wall, right? Like so you reinforce from looking from vault outside. You reinforce the left panel and you leave the right panel open to peek and everything. So many people put their drones in there. So many attackers just stuff their drones, and because it's between two panels, it's hard to see. And that gave them free reign to yellow ping away without stopping. Like you have two people dead, they can just alternate yellow ping. It can't be like real time information given. That's way too powerful. I think that needs to change. But let's get into like this week's stuff properly. And since I'm talking about APAC, let's start with APAC, where we had a little bit of placement error, and that placement error is in quotes.
Can we clarify this?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I saw this and I read the update to the article and I read the statement. Was this a placement error on the graphic, or was this a placement error on the back end that made it to the graphic? I.e., did someone only mess up publicly, or was this like a total top down, like, oh, sorry, we told you that you're playing the wrong team?
I am So I'm not 100% sure on this, but like from what I've heard and what if you go to this tweet that I just put in chat, go look at who has been quote tweeting, right? And it's like half of them are pros, like Damwon players, Sandbox players are quote tweeting this, and I'm like calling, they're calling like they're not really being nice to whoever made the decision, which makes it seem like this was an actual change. It's not a graphical glitch that happened. This is an actual mistake that they made where they put Sandbox in Knight's position and vice versa.
That statement is like wildly unclear. Kind of like an epidemic in esports where the attempt to use a little bit like flowery language and look smarter than you are. Okay, Pat from Wildcard told us on. Okay, that's bad. It's a very bad screw up. But also that statement is kind of like unclear. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't really tell you what happened. Like if that's just like a mess up on the graphic, but teams knew about it beforehand, it's kind of embarrassing. But it's one of those mess ups that everyone does. But like literally telling teams that they're gonna play the wrong team, that is one of the more catastrophic own goals we've seen. That's bad. Yeah. That's very bad.
And while these lower bracket games don't get started until next week, which is the Wednesday 27th, so really like the team like Elevate, for example, only really had 1 day's worth, like maybe. And I'm theorizing. I'm not saying any of this is fact. And Pat, if you want to correct me on how teams usually go through this, feel free, or like hybrid. But like Elevate and Sandbox, they probably only and Chief, they only lost about a day of progress. But the problem is for for the teams who are already in the lower bracket, because they have to rejig their plans because they have been preparing for weeks for one-off to teams, like either we're going to play Cyclops or Elevate would have been the thinking of Sandbox, and then suddenly surprise, you're playing Chiefs or Talon, and it's the Chiefs now.
It's not. I'm struggling to like get like an accurate framing of how bad or how like okay or understandable this is. Understandable is a poor word. Like I don't think this is in any way understandable. This is just a failure to administrate. And it's an L and sometimes you take it and move on, but like it's kind of illustrative of the difficulties that APAC has had on the administrative side. Like we had the IG forfeit snafu. I just realized I used another American phrase. Do y'all know what a snafu is?
Yeah.
David, really. You know what a snafu is? Not really? Okay, now I get to explain it. Snafu is an acronym, SNAFU. It stands for situation normal, all fucked up. So it's like if it's a snafu, like
okay,
it's bad, but it's not like outside of normal. So it's a pretty big snafu.
The US is a wonderful place.
Yeah, it's a pretty egregious mistake, and I was gonna get to this point, like that's Pat's raised in the chat right now. So now, if you guys weren't paying attention to APAC, which is, I don't blame you, it's at weird hours for most people, but Chiefs had to play their game against Talon, which the second map went like incredibly close, by the way. They had to play their game against Talon at like 150-ish ping, maybe spiking to 160, 70 at some points if you look at when the observer very rarely flashed up the pings, right? So first of all, the rules specifically say if you have more than 150 ping, you can't play.
It's a competitive integrity issue. Like
yeah. Second, but the reason
it's a big deal.
The reason this happens, right, is because these teams are instructed to play on VPNs provided by ESL to ostensibly level the playing field across this geographical distance, right? Like back in 2020, I think it used to be that you used to be playing on like a middle ground server, So, for example, if a team from Japan played a team from Australia, they'd play on the Singapore server. So everyone would get like 100 ping to like the system. Then eventually, I don't remember whether it's in 2021 or somewhere midway through 2021, they changed the they they changed the system and they introduced the VPNs, and the VPNs are really not great. Luna Metal was talking about this issue like when this happened 3 days ago, and he was saying let me just pull up the tweet. He was very, very unhappy, and now because he's retired, he can kind of air out the play. He got like a sanction, he says, for pushing back against it the last time out this happened. So yeah, no one likes these VPNs thing, and this time. So wait, the story's not over.
What a difficult league to administrate. Like,
oh yeah.
First off, let's give credit where credit is due. There is no good solution here. All solutions are imperfect. This is not like like the North American League, where you could just like put everyone in the same city, or put everyone even in the same state, which would more or less solve all issues of ping. Like, it's not like the European League, where the prestige is enough for maybe teams to like pay their players to live in like a very central location like Berlin. Like it would be relatively simple for them to like gain visas. Like APAC has always struggled on Twitch with viewership. It is a emerging region, a region that shows a lot of promise, which is very clear from the amount of money that Ubisoft is like dumping into the regional leagues there. However, because of just like the geography of the region, God, I do not envy anyone who has to like figure out that absolute fucking nightmare of how to make an online league perfectly fair. That is, it's so hard. The only solution is LAN.
Impossible task.
The only solution is LAN. And are you really going to get there?
It's tough. It requires a lot of money and like infrastructure and countries opening up, which is happening now. So like maybe for stage 2 we will see the switch to LAN. But like okay, let's assume whatever the case is. So what happened like this week was that Pat says that Aussie teams usually don't normally use VPNs, and they've been doing it the last few weeks because it fixes a ping issue for some of the players. But this week, what happened to Chiefs was it was not fixing the issue at all. And Chiefs, I think they offered to use their own VPNs, like cleared, they're like, here's what we want to do. They asked beforehand, they asked permission. This lowers our ping. They were denied. They asked to use exit lag. They were denied as well for that. So it was a lot of a mess. And apparently, Pat's saying that allegedly ESL Asia thinks that it was an ISP issue that was happening with this ping spikes, which is why I guess they didn't allow Chiefs those workarounds, or at least that was their reasoning, it seems.
I mean that's a very reasonable explanation. And again, like this entire discussion needs to come with like a massive like blaring in neon lights disclaimer. This is not easy to administrate. It's so difficult. Like we can sit here in the cheap seats and like hurl shots all we want. Like it very clearly like there's something wrong, right? Like this was an error, but I'm not entirely convinced that the administrators of the league are not in a situation where they're constantly trying to choose between the lesser of two evils. I'm just not. Like, I really feel for anyone who tries to like figure this shit out. And honestly, like a lot of them should figure it out. It's their job. But I also completely and totally disagree with like the framing that this is like. I'm backing up a little bit. I disagree with two framings. One, that this is an insolvable issue. It very clearly is. The answer is to go to LAN. Two, I disagree with the framing that it's like fixing it is like flipping a switch. There's so many things that you have to navigate. There's so many like local government provisions. There's regional government provisions. There's issues of travel. There's issues of, well, what the hell happens if Australia just like completely shuts down again? Like, it's simultaneously simple in that there is a very simple solution. It is the getting there that is like so profoundly difficult. It's impossible to see a way forward in COVID. And that's just going to have to be how it is.
Thankfully, things are clearing up. It seems at least Singapore today, like, pretty much dropped all restrictions except for indoor masking, which is like great if you're vaccinated. If you're not vaccinated, don't come to my country. So like that's how it is. But Kev also raised a little bit of a point that, they will need to like compress the schedules maybe a little bit further because there's no real visa-free area. Singapore might actually be one of the most visa-friendly places. Like, I know there's a place in like the airport, like literally in the airport. You don't have to leave at the airport, like the immigration area. You don't have to like come into Singapore. Like, there's an area with like computers or like conference rooms set up inside there. So like people who are in Singapore can, across like a layer of glass, talk and like meet with people who don't have to enter the country at all. They don't have to get the passport stamp, which is crazy.
We're gonna play APAC playoffs in SeaWorld. We're gonna play APAC playoffs in SeaWorld. You know what I'm talking about? The people who like took that old abandoned oil derrick in the English Channel, I believe, and like turned it into their own like country. We're gonna play APAC playoffs in SeaWorld. Ain't no COVID restrictions on the sea.
Yeah, so we'll see how it works out for stage 2. Whatever the case, there was 100% a failure of communication to the teams at the very least. There's no way that this should be happening. The bracket has been known for weeks now. Really, really, really long time. Pat is also saying that the ping issue has been an issue for weeks, so like they should have been working on solves somehow,
it would
like
not
workarounds.
It would not be APAC without a ping issue.
Yeah.
No.
It just wouldn't.
Especially from Australia. Because, like, let me just put it into context for you guys who are not from Australia or, like, don't really know your geography. Australia is basically the size of America, like the US of A. They are, like, basically the same. I think Australia might even be just only slightly smaller in terms of land area. Australia's massive, all right? It's huge. We are in the same region, but from Singapore to APAC, to Sydney, it's a 7-hour flight. I think it's a 10-hour flight to Hong Kong. So, these teams have to like play in the same league. It's crazy stuff. But so that happened, and Chiefs lost. They dropped down to the lower bracket, 2-0 to Talon. The Korean teams had like had a good start as well in like the upper bracket semifinal. Talon and Damwon Kia were there, but they lost the second map both in regulation, and then they kind of choked their third map really to decide a map. Talon's choke was especially egregious. If you haven't seen it, I think I'm gonna put it here in chat because like that's actually just wild. There's a Monty, there's a 1v4 that should never be happening. So like go have a look at this article. The clip is inside of the article. That's what happened. So SiegeGG and Direwolves are confirmed to be attending the 6 Charlotte Major. Direwolves obviously going to be debutantes. Congratulations, big congratulations to them. It's going to be really tough for Direwolves. And I was watching them. We had Heather, who's a writer on our site. He was also watching them, and both of us had kind of reservations about whether this playstyle can translate ever. Both of these teams, in fact, SiegeGG and Direwolves. SiegeGG, we have known like they have struggled to make it work internationally. Direwolves may also kind of fall into the same trap. We'll have to see.
It's the APAC cycle. It's going to happen again. I'm coining this term. I'm coining it. It is the APAC International cycle. A relatively unknown to the rest of the world team comes out of APAC with very little information about them that plays a unique and crazy play style. They excel excel on one day of the group stage, right? They upset some team that on paper or by conventional Western wisdom or whatever that they're not supposed to upset. At the end of the day, everyone starts freaking out. Oh my God! Like, is this it finally is black supremacy here? And then they just come crashing back down to earth. The APAC international cycle. It's going to happen. It's going to happen to someone. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
We have seen too many times. We have seen it too many times.
It's probably gonna be Diagonals. Let's be real. Let's be real.
Happened with it's happened with every single team except for Damwon Kia, and it has happened to Damwon Kia. They made it out of the group stage, and in Mexico, they made it out of the group stage and then came crashing back down to earth. It happened in SI as well. In fact, like I think Damwon is the only APAC team that has kind of like broken that cycle. I really don't think you can call like one bullet away from a grand finals like crashing back down to earth.
I would say I think like after Fnatic, they are the only. Has Fnatic even done it? No, I don't think even Fnatic has done it. Back-to-back playoff appearances in like back-to-back international events. Fnatic have done it back-to-back at SIs, from SI 1, SI 2, another SI. They did it 18, 19, 20. But I don't think Fnatic.
No, I think Fnatic did. Well, but
no, they failed at 6
do you count Pro League finals? Do you count Pro League finals?
Oh, right. I mean, I guess I should. Yeah, but like they didn't really have a group stage to really.
Yeah, exactly.
Into playoffs.
Yeah.
So I'm not really counting that. But like I mean, like the majors to majors. But whatever the case, like Damwon, like the first one where it was 100% groundbreaking that Damwon didn't fall flat after the Sweden thing. Like it just happens all the time. And their 9 to 12th placement that they had, it's not great, but look, it's all right. Like they've gone further than what any other APAC team has gone so far. Yeah, right. Let's move on now to the EUL, where this week we had a little bit of a funky set of results. The first funky result that I would say is, Eminem beat Rogue in regulation 7-4. BDS relied on 3 clutches from Rafale to beat Secret, and that's only 7-5. And yeah, I think that's it. Those are the 2 surprising results. I guess you can say a little bit surprising that Heroic were troubled by outsiders, but they got the win, 3 points. They're qualified to the Charlotte Major. The bigger ones, I think, is Eminem and like BDS kind of in this situation, and then also later on, Hones.
I've been warming up this take for a while, and I think it's time to like finally deploy it in full force. This is the weakest EUL has looked in quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I don't think it's particularly like close. I think roster. I mean, we talked about it in the transfer window show. Like, if you want to watch that, go back and look at it. We thought that there was maybe one team that like definitively won the transfer window that came out of it better than before, and that was G2. Obviously, like Rogue has like exceeded all expectations, which is becoming par for the course for a Meepy and Leon Gids led team. Yeah. Maybe that's something we take into consideration in the future, that they just kind of seem to make it work. Secret are excelling with their coach. I think it's pretty clear that they're going to be.
Like they're doing better. Yeah,
they're excelling. Like I would contend that for playing with a coach, like the wins that they have and how they're playing, like that is excelling.
Fair enough.
Like they're punching so far
a lot. Yeah.
They're okay.
They're over
punching above their weight.
Yeah, they're 100%
punching above their weight.
Yeah.
It's but at the same time, looking at the rest of like EUL, it's very difficult to say that like anyone is definitively getting better. Like outsiders were supposed to be like pretty good, and I don't think they've fully lived up to that old kind of like Forza excellence that they had. Like they were supposed to make in that poor roster, dude. Like they were supposed to make SI 21. They got COVID, couldn't come. They were supposed to like they were supposed to make a major, I believe, after stage 1 of EUL 1, and then SI got posted. Like they just have not had any luck at all. Now the other Russian roster, which I think is the one that we're going to look heavily at, I see no. Oh man, it's like difficult. I don't see a way forward with their current configuration. I don't. And again, that's an outside looking in. And I'm not saying that like roster changes are necessarily like the key to all of their problems. But again, this is a team that just unceremoniously dumped. Like, let's not act like this wasn't like it wasn't and is still not a massive controversy. 80% of the second best Rainbow Six team of all time. Not great. It is very I don't know. I don't know what you do there, but you have to do something different. It's like that super clip. I can't wait to see the tweets. Oh no, like whatever. Yo, you suck. Do something else. Like it's I think it's very apparent that they need to do something else, whether that's like a role change, whether they need to figure out who is calling, whether they need to ship someone off. Like it just isn't working. And with that patchwork team, I don't know. All their players are EUL caliber players. I just don't think they fit well together. It's the same reason I'm not super high on Secret, even though I think like Kendra's a pretty solid player and Slebin and Gonfi are obviously like mechanically talented. I don't really know how they all fit in, and it's just.
I mean, dude, at this point, I don't even know what you would do. Like aside I doubt they're getting non-Russian players or like non-CIS players. That's not happening. So like I'm looking at the RML teams. Hellraiser's already got ripped apart by Empire and Virtus.pro. It's not really worked out for Empire in particular or Pawns. Really, just get inside. The FMX went from there. But like, dude, like who do you get? Like at this point, you have to start looking at Karzeka and WTG. Like that is the only names.
That's the problem. Because of now the new like sanctions on the RML and how it's not going to be played. Those players are not going to be getting better, and you've already pulled out of like several RML teams. You're up a creek without a paddle. They're stuck. And it's very difficult to see them going anywhere outside of some like very intense and very, I guess poignant is the word, like some drastic changes, drastic improvement. Like it would take some kind of like unprecedented turnaround, because right now it's just not it. Like they got the timing could not have been worse in every sense of the word. Like the timing is the operative thing here, because like if you're Pwns XM, if you're Empire now, who are you gonna get? There's a really easy answer to that question, but it would resolve completely and totally swallowing your pride, booting the coach that they allegedly did not want to play with, and then re-picking those same people back up, and essentially
also dropping Scyther. You have to drop Scyther at this point.
It would require bending the knee in a fashion that I don't think a license holder.
Sorry, you cut out at the end.
I said it would require a bending the knee in a way that a license holder is just not going to do.
It's incredibly hard. Like, and that's if like you offer them like the magical paycheck for the four of them, and the coach, the old coach, I can't remember his name for some reason, Jekka. Yeah, if you offer them like such a fat paycheck for them to come back, like you piss them off like amazingly badly.
I mean, we can speak. It's pretty public now. Like Joystick has talked that bridge is burned.
Yeah.
Like, it's over.
It's basically it's very hard. Like
there's no way they go.
They're not going back.
There is a way. At some point, like there some paycheck figure will get them to budge. But like that paycheck figure is most likely completely unrealistic, like something like 20,000 euros a month kind of deal.
I mean, there's a chance they come back, but it doesn't seem like it's with Empire. Like for all of the talk and all of the buzz. I mean, for all the talk and for all the buzz about how like this Empire was like, I mean, it's public, like EUL players have talked about it. Allegedly, Empire was like drastically underpaid.
Yeah.
And yet they still continued on negotiations with Empire. These guys do not seem like they really give a shit who they play for as long as it isn't Empire. Mm-hmm. That bridge is burned. And it is very much a disagreement, it seems, with management. It is not necessarily a hatred of like the team itself, but I think they would need like I think they would require new management, and they could probably command like substantial salaries from like whoever wants to pick them up. Like it's such like a difficult like line to toe, especially while the war is still ongoing. Like,
and there might be some psychological effects to that team as well.
The CIS region might, if we consider like Rainbow Six, right? Like as a whole, developers said this is a 10-year game, right? We're near 7. RML is canceled.
Pretty much for the year, I guess.
I don't think the question should be is like, how does Empire make it back into the league? I don't think the question should be, how can Pones like find players to figure it out? I think the overarching question should be, with how long we have seen it takes national leagues to build talent, will the CIS region ever recover from this in the stated life cycle of Rainbow Six? Where's the guarantee that Rainbow Six will last more than the 3.5 years it still has left on the clock? Is 3.5 years enough to build something from the ground up in a country and a region that will likely be rebuilding its own infrastructure from a literal war?
Straight up, like the economy's bust. Like those guys
have the
bigger problems to worry about.
That is the only take. That's the only take. Will CIS ever recover? I don't. I think that's the only question that we can have.
Yeah,
I think it'd be nice to see them make a comeback.
I think the players will come back, but with other management. But the scene itself,
but then they've been out of tier 1 competition for I don't know, like how long?
Not even tier 1.
6 months.
Not even tier 1.
Yeah, 6 months. Yeah.
I mean, unless they've been like scrimming behind the scenes through avenues and with teams that we like do not know about, like they have not been playing any kind of competition. We've seen like the best players in the world take even like 2 months off and need time to like get back into it. Will CIS ever recover and come back to its like former prestige? That's the question. And no matter your answer to that, I feel like that's the question that we need to be asking, not like whether Empire will make it back. Can this entire region ever make it back? I don't think so. Personal take, I don't think so, but that's 100% the question that we should be asking.
Right. That is pretty much it for you this week. We still have the like upcoming clash between BDS and G2 that could define things. We even have Rogue at risk of missing out actually with this loss to Eminem, because like right now Rogue plays outsiders next. Outsiders aren't pushovers, especially if Rogue lost to Eminem, and then Rogue on the final day plays Heroic. That's not a guarantee. That's like even less of a guaranteed win. Rogue, for like their solid AF run, might just end up dropping the ball at the very, very end. We'll see what happens specifically over there. But that is Europe pretty much. Let's move on now. David, it is your time to shine. It's LATAM. We've got Copa Elite 6 brackets set up, but there's also a little bit of controversy going on. So how do you want to start this off?
We can start with the bracket first. So this weekend, we have 4 games, basically more like APAC qualifiers. First we have W7M against Furious Gaming. It's 4 Brazilian teams, each of them playing against a South American or a Mexican team. The Brazilian teams are not playing each other right now. So we have W7M, which is they finished in first place after winning 8 matches back to back, and scoring 24 points, which is the maximum a team has in Brazil has ever scored. Then we have Furious Gaming from South America. Furia is playing against Six Karma, so if Furious Gaming and Furia win, we could have a Furious Gaming against Furia, which would be pretty cool. We have Team Liquid against Alpha Team, and then Team One Esports against Pampas. I'm not gonna lie, I think Brazilian teams should advance, especially in best of 3 maps games. Sorry. Last victory against a Brazilian team in a best of 3 series was in January 2021. It was an Australia Sports victory, against INTZ in the Six Invitational 2021 qualifiers. So that's over a year now. It's a difficult place to be. I think that the Brazilian teams are going to qualify for the Charlotte Major, which means that we would have over 10 debutants. We would have W7M, Team Liquid, no rookies here, but all Team One and Fury Sports have at least one rookie. Team One has 3 from the Serie B. Fury Sports has Andy, and W7M, many names.
Lagoatness, baby.
I believe it. Look,
Lagoatness.
The past weekend's results, like I think what W7M and T1 both lost, right? Is that right? Yeah. Like they're 100% like they were like the sights were set on like their next competitors. Like Team One in particular would have been looking at Team Liquid already, or like the other 3 teams. They are very intimately familiar with all these 3 teams. The other 3 teams are going to be there, each of them. So they'll be just preparing for the BO3 system already, and like preparing the map bans and map strategy, and just like mentality kind of thing. Like after the W7M season, it's hard to imagine they're not making it. Furia, Liquid, mainstays of the international stage. At this point, surely they make it too. Team One also, like, look, they've looked insanely good for a team that was literally just put together. Same with W7M, right? So like, probably W7M and Team One drop to the lower bracket, and that's where they qualify from. Like, that's what my perspective would be. I don't know if you disagree.
It just shows the strength of Serie B. Like, this entire year, this entire year, we said this from the beginning. Like, the strength of Brazil in the future will come out of the strength of Serie B, and right now it's looking extremely strong.
Yep. But we can't forget about the thing that these teams haven't played any best of 3 game, like official game. So we might see W7M and Team One struggling now, but I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think so.
It's hard to imagine. It's really hard to imagine. They're Brazilian teams after all. But
a lot of variables here.
Yeah, but speaking of Brazilian teams, now please explain. Now, you raised this point, I believe, internally last week, David, right? If I remember.
I think
correctly.
It was Heather. But
it's Heather? Okay.
It's something. Yeah, I think so. But it's something that everyone has been thinking about, and it's that Brazilian teams last year, for some context, Brazilian teams last year were in a better place to get 6 invitational points compared to NA or European teams. Last year, 6 teams from Brazil qualified for Copa Elite Six. So 6 teams obtained lots of 6 invitational points, and considering that last year it was like Brazilians dynasty and blah blah blah, all that. They scored so many points, and we saw like 5 or 6 teams from Brazil in the last Six Invitational. We could now, with the current system, we could see only 3 or maximum 4, because right now only 4 Brazilian teams advance to the Copa Elite Six, and after W7M and Team One coming from nowhere and qualifying, means that all MIBR, Ninjas in Pyjamas, and FaZe Clan won't be scoring, and 00 Nation won't be scoring any Six Invitational point. This stage, which is a
Might I,
0.
might I
That's
play the
huge.
devil's advocate? Might
Yeah,
I
go
play the
ahead.
devil's advocate? Or at the very least, let's move this conversation forward. How is that different from any other region?
Correct. That's
Because
exactly the
because
point.
no,
Yeah.
but because in North America or in Europe or whatever, you have let's say North America, let's say we have Astralis space station, Dark Zero, TSM, no, maybe, okay, Oxygen, blah blah blah. Top 5, you guarantee yourself
Top 8 in
225
UL.
points.
Top 8 in UL
Even
gets 115.
even if you finish in top 8, you will guarantee yourself
Correct.
115 Six Invitational points. Um, Here it's not gonna happen, because you have to finish in the top 4 to guarantee yourself 115 points minimum. In Brazil, finishing in the top 4 is extremely difficult because you have to be super consistent. And then you have those Argentinian and Mexican teams that, obviously, I'm not saying that they don't deserve to be here. They deserve to be here. They have been the best in their leagues and everything. But do you think that Furious Gaming, Pampas, Alpha Team, or Six Karma would win 00 Nation, FaZe Clan, Ninjas in Pyjamas in a best of 3 match right now?
Probably not. No.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Probably not
That's
ever.
that's
Like,
the
or
issue.
like aside from like a freak result, like in one stage, or like in one part of the bracket, like in the upper bracket, and then
Mm.
the revenge happens in lower bracket. It's hard
Yeah.
to imagine that. You're right. Like, but like they will grow.
And
I assume
yeah.
at some
I
point.
assume that they will grow, yeah, at some point. But and now see it from this perspective, like from another angle. Now let's say that W7M, Team Liquid, Team One, and Fury Sports make it to the major, and they score, I don't know, an average of 306 invitational points, which is quite good.
Mhm.
Let's say that let's move to stage 2, and W7M Esports doesn't qualify to the next major. Team One Esports doesn't qualify to the Copa Elite Six. Fury
Let's see.
Sports and Team Lock repeat, okay, but then you have FaZe Clan and Ninjas in Pyjamas, let's say, okay? These 6 invitationals that last year always finished in the same 4 or 5 teams, this is not gonna happen this year. And the
Right.
6 invitational
Yeah.
points will be divided in like 7 or 8 teams. So it's like at the end of the year, you will have like maybe 2 or 3 teams in the top 16, but then 2 or 3 more with 500, 600 that will be like on the verge of making it, but actually not making it. I'm not sure if I'm explaining
We need
myself here.
we need a unified scoring system globally for this ever to be in any way, shape, or form like fair.
Brazil got close this season, but it's still not like I think exactly
Wasn't
as
it
this.
wasn't it last season where we had the with 6 Brazilian teams in the Copa Elite 6, like Brazil
Yeah,
was like
exactly.
destined to like send way too many teams.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
there just isn't going to be a good measuring stick until all regions adopt the exact same regular stage format. There's just no way to like very fairly divvy up the points. And like I know on the show it's very easy to like look at something and say like, oh, it would be so easy for me to do this. This is one of those like switch flip things that 100% could be implemented more or less overnight. Make everything like APAC Playoffs, make everything like Copa Elite 6, or make everything like NAEU.
Exactly. Mhm.
Do it all. That
Yeah.
100% of the things that we're talking about is something where you just flip a switch and you do.
Yeah, I agree. It's really difficult. It's a really difficult position because you want to give South American and Mexican teams a chance to actually like prove themselves.
So
But at doing that, you are shooting your own feet.
I'd like to raise maybe like a point. So maybe that like we could do something like at least for like LATAM. Let's bring back the LATAM League or whatever, like the top level, like how it used to be, like it used to be the LATAM Pro League, right? And South American teams, we give them like nationals, we still give them Copa Elite Six and stuff like that, but like they are able to get promoted into like this top level LATAM league, which is kind of what happened in APAC. If you were paying attention, South Asia now no longer gets like a straight road to the majors. South Asia needs to play through the APAC relegations, and then they need to get promoted to APAC South, and then they need to be top 4 in APAC South, just like any other team, and then they need to play through the APAC playoffs to get to majors, and then collect SI points from there. So potentially, obviously, this will hurt the South American and Mexican teams a little bit, or unless you move Mexico to NA. But like, in the short term, it will probably hurt them. But there are ways to kind of like mitigate that hurt with like national level competitions. So maybe the Copa Elite Six. Because what I remember from back in like the Pro League days is like, yes, the LATAM Pro League was the thing for like international qualifications, but like, damn, the BR6 back then was still absolutely crazy. Like people went wild on it. Nesk's very famous 1v5 on Oregon Basement on Valkyrie is from BR6, right? Like, or am I? Yeah, I think it's from BR6.
No, yeah, it is.
Yeah. So like, the BR6 itself, like, will like not really have that problem. You can have these like national leagues kind of set up at the same time, and then you can have them filter into a Copa Elite Six to like really crown like a LATAM king if you really want, or maybe the Copa Elite Six can be some different format. Give these teams like a proper promotion, the South American and Mexican teams, so that long term they get to play week in, week out against the Brazilian teams. I think like that would be even better of like a learning opportunity and a growth opportunity for them. But in short term, for sure they are gonna feel the hurt for not being able to play against those Brazilian teams in official competitions. I don't know whether this is a good idea, right? I'm just postulating, but this is what has been done in APAC, and this is like there are pros and cons in theory to this process, and it will bring it more in line with how APAC does it. And like APAC and LATAM are these two giant regions which have a bunch of sub-regions drilled down into it, and that's the thing. And I think we can make it a little bit more equitable with NA and EU if we also switch LATAM over to maybe to this system. But yeah.
Sorry to jump in. I had to use the restroom.
No, absolutely.
Are we talking about how legislating LATAM is very difficult because there's so many sub-regions in it, but yet there's one dominant sub-region that like is very clearly head and fucking shoulders above the rest? Not easy. Not easy at all.
It's very hard.
It's not easy, honestly. And I'm personally a fan of, for example, the World Cup in football. I love seeing, I don't know, Australia or New Zealand or these kind of teams making to the main stage. But here it's incredibly difficult because the difference between Brazil and the other regions right now, I think that it's still quite big, especially with the format, because I'm not sure if this format is better than last year's with best of 3 games. Mexico and South American teams are in a really tough spot. But considering that the Brazilian teams have they are favorites to finish in the top 4, there's going to be a 5th team that's going to win 225 points. That if in the 3 stages it's the same team, we could be talking of the first South American or Mexican team qualifying for a 6 Invitational, because that's 675 points, which could be enough. Could be enough.
It was just about enough last season, I think.
I don't think so. No. I have the
No?
standings here. It was 730 points
Very low. Okay.
broke on 16th. And TSM had
Close though. Like
725.
you just need one of these teams or one of these stage to make a little bit of a deeper run, and like you are kind of settled. If you make the playoffs consistently after that, obviously depending on how it works out in the rest of the regions.
And we are talking of a global standings where Brazilian teams had like were in super good place because of the format, and now the format has been changed, so there are not going to be so many teams there. So the minimum is going to be like maybe 600 something instead of 700 something.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one.
It's so tough to legislate, but like,
yeah,
I mean, depending on how like the points shook out, like the problem with the Copa Elite Six last year was not that like too many Brazilian teams got to go.
Yeah.
It's that you got
The same
an outsized amount of SI points for simply making it to Copa Elite 6, which essentially meant that you're like in the top 60% of your league, which no other region got that kind of like an advantage. Truly. I don't think the answer was to like bar 16 or to shorten it to 4. The answer would be to expand Copa Elite 6, which diminishes the amount of points that like each team would get. Maybe we bring in more teams from the sub-regions. Maybe we bring in like more stuff, like maybe make Copa Elite 6 like a bigger deal. Or we just do the smart thing and just standardize it across all regions. Like there's just...
Which is easier said than done, might I add. Like a lot of the shit that works in APAC won't work in LATAM and EU, vice versa, and it's just
if we're going off of APAC playoffs, nothing works in APAC. That's the big difference.
Let's go. Right. Now let's move on maybe to a region where we haven't talked about just yet, and where things have been working out pretty well. Yeah, and Hunter's already like he's getting his hands and mouth warmed up. His face is bright as a sun now.
This is my time. Yeah, I'm looking at our show notes, and it's very bright.
So NA, we had a fairly interesting set of games this week in NA. I have to say, like a little bit more than usual. You said this would be the week where things would get a little bit more codified. They did. We saw Australia's Oxygen exit by the way. Not really our pick for being the top 4, but like they made it into the major immediately. They've had the impact. They're 3rd in the league right now. Might drop to 4th, but like it's only 4th. We had DZ beat Oxygen. We had Beast Coast slap TSM silly 7-2. We had Oxygen continue to beat Sonics. I mean, Sonics is losing a lot.
Are you on the right week?
Am I think so, yeah. Playday 7, right? April 20th?
Playday 8.
April.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same week, right? Like,
I was going to say, Playday 8 is the important one.
Oh, yeah. But like this week was like back-to-back, so like, I kind of like, put them together. Like, but yeah, like, TSM got a win! Holy shit, they got a second win against Parabellum 7-4, big one.
They're going to figure it out. Again, like, relax about TSM.
Yeah.
Relax. They're going to be fine. Don't have to make roster moves. You do not have to make
going to be the fifth BR team at SI. Just you watch. Mirage had a big win, 7-4 again. Like they first got it against TSM, now they got it against BC, and then Astralis beat
let's zoom in. Let's zoom in because that Mirage over BC victory, like that was the wrench in the system that allowed 3 teams to qualify. Like it single-handedly, that victory single-handedly qualified both Oxygen and Astralis immediately. That was not supposed to happen. Don't take Tommy to border. Apparently, don't take Tommy to border. I mean, who knew that Mirage was so good? And they're playing with a coach, Razor, out with some personal issues. There was some like immediate speculation, like, oh, like what's really happening? Like Razor, this is a team that has struggled. Are they dropping him? Are they making changes? No, he has some personal stuff going on out of like respect for him and like his family. Like no one's disclosing. We would not disclose if we knew either. That's just like, that's the kind of like tabloid shit we don't want to get into. Like there's room for speculation. There's not room for speculation about someone's fucking family or anything that like does not directly like affect them.
Unless it was actually not a personal thing. Like if it's a personal thing, we're not bringing it up.
But it is like he's out for, he's taking care of some stuff in his real life. I talked to upper management at Mirage. He'll be back next stage. They're committed to him as a player. Rightfully so. He's proven to be pretty solid. Like this is a huge victory for Mirage, though. It just kind of shows that there's like, when we did our transfer window show again, we keep on going back to that because like the transfer window does decide like a lot of the next stage, especially the offseason transfer window where you can just like where you can nuke your roster. We all said, beyond all shadow of a doubt, we thought Mirage was the big loser in North America. They clearly did not think they were going to lose Dream. They clearly thought that like Newers was locked in. Yeah, they thought they were set and they were ready to move forward. That was clearly not the case. They kind of had to scramble. Now again, based on all of our reporting, like sometimes teams like reach out to other teams and there are negotiations that happen. Like X had inquired about like Kino and Yaga to like Oxygen upper management, like well before like that X team was in the process of forming like a while back. Now, Mirage was not. To put it lightly, on the first day of the transfer window, Mirage found out they were losing 2 players and had to make moves within 2 weeks. That is a very short time frame to. Oh, so sorry, chat. My mic always cuts out at this point in the show. It just happens. Sorry. So, Mirage had to make some changes. They had a very short amount of time to do so. It's an unenviable situation. They made the best of it. Getting a win like this is very substantial. It shows that that the changes that they made during the transfer window were not entirely panic changes, which can happen when a player leaves unexpectedly. You think, okay, we got to get someone in here. And then you get the wrong person because you haven't had enough time to deliberate on it. There's meat on the bone here. Marmalade is playing excellently. She's been a great pickup. Razor has been solid when he's in. Tommy has had a pretty good stage, all things considered. Melted finally showed up in a big way like he did on Parabellum a couple times. There's something there. Like, they're not completely and totally out of it. They're going to be solid in the future. Them getting that win was huge. Huge. That was the catalyst for the rest of the day.
They could beat PB yet on the final day and jump them actually. Like it's
100%.
This is on the cards.
It's within the realm of possibility. And PB are another team that are in North America are super interesting. We don't have any reporting on this. This is all speculation. But like, if I'm Parabellum and I explicitly said to my team and like explicitly said to us, like, hey, like Wimpy is here for a stage. At the end of the stage, we're bringing in Blaz. If I'm Parabellum, I'm reconsidering and I am reconsidering who is getting shipped off because Wimpy's had a heck of a stage as well. If Wimpy is not on a North American League team, I think it's an error. I think there are a lot of teams that would stand to benefit from a player. Yeah, he's had a very solid stage. Parabellum have disappointed a little bit compared to their previous prestige. Still a solid team. That's a solid middle of the pack North American League squad that has the ability to punch above their weight. This Parabellum team, this core, which there's really not much left of. It's mostly just Eska. They have constantly, consistently punched above their weight in every single fashion, beating Mirage 3-0 in the Canadian League finals in the day, qualifying for SI, doing great at SI. This has consistently been a roster that is
it's a good roster.
Just been better than they should be on paper.
Yeah, like I guess like just looking completely. I barely watched Parabellum this stage, but like looking at like a lot of these teams, not just Parabellum, I saw a couple of teams in Europe as well. You have like the Finca Jaeger mains going like 0.98 and like barely breaking even in KD. It's like those are like your main fragging outputs. They can't be doing that. They have to be in an LMG meta if you're playing Finca as your main. If you're not busting heads, maybe that's like something that needs to change within your team. Like other fraggers not getting enough resources or whatever you have. So like, I guess that will be like the main question, right? How you're gonna maintain any positive momentum that these new teams have? Beast Coast, Parabellum, Mirage. Like Parabellum creators is -2 on KD as a Finca and Jaeger main, and then for Beast Coast we have Sweater, also Finca Jaeger, only +10. He's a 1.06. He's third on his team. The Thermite main Drip is ahead of him, Thermite Castle, which is like it happens, but like it shouldn't. Like that's not like the sign of a long-term healthy team, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And Mirage obviously they had Guerra coming in, so that kind of shakes up things a little bit more.
So to our show notes,
Jaeger.
To our show notes, because that whole Parabellum Mirage situation, like who do they drop, who do they pick up, like, we'll figure that out at the transfer window. We don't really know anything concrete right now. To go into our conversation about North America, before we look forward to the major in future reporting and future shows, let's kind of cast some aspersions into the future. Can these newly formed teams maintain their momentum? I think it would be absurd to say that Astralis isn't like riding a huge wave of momentum right now. Oxygen very clearly was in the past. That is not like a new team, but I mean, they changed 40% of their roster. Xset is 100% newly formed, moving to the future. And then like, there's only 2 teams left in the running for the 4th spot in North America, Space Station and Dark Zero. Consequently, they are the only 2 teams that stayed the same from 2021 that have a shot at making it to the Charlotte Major. I'd say 40% of Oxygen is enough to say, like, this is a new roster.
It's almost half.
Call Out has clearly, like, changed the way Astralis play the game. And that influence is just kind of, like, readily apparent. I feel comfortable calling that a new team. I also feel comfortable because, like, 80% of that team, it's going to be their first international ban. They're new faces to the international competition. Can they maintain this momentum? Looking at this, one of Space Station and Dark Zero is going to miss out on the major.
Crazy.
So someone is coming into the next stage really pissed off. Either Canadian and Men or Skies and Lycan and Rampy. Can't forget about Rampy. Someone is coming into that stage super, super frustrated. Both those teams incredibly mechanically skilled. can 100% like make it back into major contention. Then you have TSM, who should not make changes. TSM an excellent roster, who are going to also come into stage 2 pissed off. There are only 4 spots for the major.
NAL is the most competitive it's ever been.
Well, and also when you look at NAL historically, this is 1 year of historical data, so we're using the term historically in big air quotes.
Yeah.
Historically, new North American League teams have thrived in the first stage and then come crashing back down to earth in stage 2 and 3. Sorry. Look at stage 1 last year. If not for the postponement of the major, Oxygen won the stage. Sonics was a brand new team. Sonics made it. And the other 2 teams that would have gone to a major were Disrupt and Mirage. Hot and Cold Mirage. Not like Hot and Cold. Hot and Cold the player when he was with Mirage. So again, because this is kind of like the wheelhouse that I want to kind of put us in because no one really talks about this. Those 2 teams, Dark Zero Space Station, TSM additionally, they have the financial resources, if they truly want to go out and get whoever they want. They can buy out whatever player in the North American League out of their contract. They have done it before. They will do it again. Space Station did it with Hot and Cold. We all know about Dark Zero's like funding and where they come from. TSM, obviously like very profitable team that winning SI is probably willing to invest in staying at the top. If they want to go get some of these new players, some of these people who are performing excellently, they can and they will. Dark Zero went and picked NJR before the 2021 season. They wanted him. They went out and got him. Space Station wanted Hot and Cold. Space Station wanted Skies. They got them both. So the question is, do we think that all of these like kind of newly formed, newly excellent teams survive in their current form throughout 2022? It almost seems naive to say no, but that's kind of exactly what happened with Sonics. Grixer became one of the top rated players in North America. To the best of my knowledge, no team has like been able to wrest him free. So you have a situation where teams are very clearly willing to pay. And from what we know and from what is public about salary disparity, those perennial powers are paid more. It would be a salary bump for a lot of teams, probably a bump in SI or like R6 share revenue for players as well. And the opportunity to play within a team with more structure. At the same time, I don't think anything really changes in the transfer window for like the perennial powers. I think Sonics are perfectly content with where they're at. I think they've improved down the stage. I think TSM would be foolish to make a change. I think so would Space Station and Dark Zero. For the pieces of the puzzle that they could change out, I don't think you're improving your team. Like in Dark Zero's case, like who on that team could they drop and get an immediate upgrade? Same as Space Station. Who could they theoretically get that would be an immediate upgrade that a team is like willing to play with? Oh man, it's so interesting. But also, I don't really know where I'm going with that other than I don't think like the top teams make too many roster changes, and I don't think they attempt to make like too many changes at the top. Now, this is not based on reporting. This is not based on educated guesswork. This is based on speculation. But from the mantra that we have heard from a lot of North American League teams is that they want to stick together as long as humanly possible to allow their teams to gel. This transfer window is probably going to be really quiet for North America, even though there are theoretically, avenues to which these top teams that are underperforming could go out and get someone else. I just think it's like the perfect storm right now where no one really wants to make a change. Now, the international experience that these teams, these new teams, quote unquote, are going to get at the major is going to be good. It might be a little bit of a shock for a couple of them. I don't know. I think Astralis will perform well. Out of all of the teams that North America is sending to the major, Astralis play the most like a LATAM team. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, kind of.
I feel like
I
Oxygen
understand your point.
I feel like Oxygen do as well, but we already knew that about Oxygen.
Except are literally a Brazilian majority and coach
Yeah.
2 Brazilian coaches, so like they are essentially a Brazilian team.
Well, I'm gonna report this out, but I had a really good conversation with Bodega yesterday about like the quote unquote like action style and how it differs from traditional North American structure. He doesn't think that they are necessarily doing the quote unquote action style just yet. Mm-hmm. So Bodega thinks there's room for improvement with Exet. I agree. I think that's a team with a lot of meat still on the bone. They have a lot of ways to go upward. However, it's difficult for me to say that like, actually, no, I'm going to reverse that. I think Exet perform at this upcoming major. I completely forgot about this. Yeah. There's a lot of people that knock Exet as a team without a lot of experience. And I was about to say the same, that I remembered like, no, that's completely wrong. Spirits has played at a 6 invitational. Yeah. Spirits has played in high pressure situations before. Kino and Yaga have played in 2. Yeah. Like this is not an experienced team. This is a team with a lot of international experience is still like kind of like figuring it out.
Coaching wise too.
Yeah, Bodega, like he has his knocks. I think he knows what he's doing, and I think it's very apparent that he knows what he's doing now. And I think it should. I don't know if like
right.
I don't know if he's right specifically about everything, but there's a method to the madness, to borrow a phrase. And I'm not saying he's mad or he's crazy, but like he has something cooking there, right? There's meat on the bone. There's meat on the bone for all of these North American teams. And to circle this entire conversation around and funnel it back into where it goes, people around the North American League have been saying for the past 3 months, this is the most competitive that North America has ever been. It's only going to get more competitive. Mm-hmm. And it's very hard to predict which of these kind of like newly formed teams or like brand new international teams will maintain this momentum, because invariably, like I think the number is 3 of the top 8 at SI from North America are not going to be going to this major. And that means they have a month to rest, plot, and scheme.
It's an exciting time if you are an NA fan, like genuinely. They're playing an excellent Siege.
North American Siege has never looked better than right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Never.
I agree.
You remember how before SI21, the entire conversation was like,
NA bad.
Oh man, like no, not NA bad. Brazil good.
Oh yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
After we have seen
Dynasty.
No, not saying that. Not saying that. What I'm saying is, cool. I'm not saying that North America has the same upper echelon teams as Latin America. I'm saying the reason that Brazil and Latin America was such a strong region was because they not only had strong teams, they were a deep region. Furia was always a threat to beat other teams. What other region can you say that about now? I think it's North America. I think North America has a couple of really strong teams, not as many super strong teams as LATAM or Brazil does, but North American depth can rival Brazilian depth. think of who we're not sending to the major. Think of who North America is not sending to the major. This is a very deep region. Yeah. A very deep region. And I think that's the take. I mean, it doesn't mean that like North American teams are going to win everything for a year. I don't think that's the takeaway. I don't think that's going to happen. It could, sure, but I mean, the moon could crash into the earth and kill us. That could happen. Like, I don't think North American teams will win every single major in 2022 for the same reason I don't think the moon's going to crash into the earth. But also, I think that every North American team that goes to an international event is going to punch well above their weight, even if they're not given necessarily the same chances due to their lack of international prestige. I think the three-headed prong of iconic Jane I Know and DP Fire are going to be very difficult for teams. Very difficult. I think XSET is a very good team with a lot of experience. Oxygen, at one point, were looking like the best team in the world. Like, this is a very deep North American region.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's definitely an exciting time to be.
I'm not on the copium. I'm not on the copium.
Yeah, you should have been here like
we're not the best. We're not the best. I'm saying we have depth.
He's going to be screaming we are the best when any wins.
Now your time.
There is not a guarantee that the kind of perennial North American powers that we've seen for the past 2 fucking years, there's no guarantee that they make it to the major anymore. Whereas in the past, it was considered unthinkable that Sonics could maintain their momentum and push forward. We were like, holy shit, there's a big 5 in North America instead of a big 4.
Yeah.
That's not the case anymore. It's not. It's simply not. Will they perform on an international stage? I do not know. But there's a very good chance that a lot of those consistent teams that have consistently been making it to majors, I think like Dark Zero has like the longest streak of qualifying for international events in the world. Dark Zero might not make it again. Like it's, how is that not depth? And I
don't know. It like anything could happen. But yeah, we've got like a little bit of
W7M win the major.
I was gonna say let's make predictions, but let's make predictions of what we think is gonna happen in like the regions that we are like kind of covering. This week, I think. Next week, I think from APAC side, I think Gamwon and Chiefs. Well, no, sorry, Chiefs are gonna get knocked out because of the ping issue. I forgot about that. Gamwon and Sandbox are qualifying for the 6 Charlotte major. That is my opinion.
Is that possible?
Oh wait, actually,
I have the
question.
bracket in front of me.
Oh yeah, no, it's not. It's not possible. Now. Yeah, they put them on the same side of the bracket now. Yes. Yeah. Right. No, it's gonna be. Well, in that case, it's gonna be who's on the other side? Damwon and Elevate. Yeah.
And Talon.
Oh, Talon.
Elevate.
Yeah. Well,
it's gonna
be Damwon and Talon. Yeah, it's gonna be. Look, the Australian teams are gonna get murdered on the ping issue. Like that's a country issue. They are pretty much done. Like they have to face freaking Damwon. It's done.
It's hard to pick them knowing that adversity in those circumstances. I agree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Damwon and Talon, and it's gonna be Korean supremacy. Different Korean team this time, but like in a way, it's that's what's happening now. Hunter, what do you think is happening? Who do you think is going to be the last team
in North America?
Yeah. DZSSG.
Let me pull up my favorite website to give us a little context. There's a really good website where you can look up all sorts of stats and like previous matchups, and that would be incredible. So, looking historically, the historical trends say that Dark Zero beats Space Station. Now, we are going to rewind back to NAL 2021 Stage 1, where Dark Zero won 7-4 over Space Station. We're going to rewind back to NAL 2021 Stage 2, where Dark Zero won 8-6. In AL 2021 Stage 3, the Space Station Perfect States, Space Station won 7-2. In AL Finals, 2-1 Dark Zero in a best of 3. Now, I'm pretty bad at math, but in the year 2021, that is 4 maps to Dark Zero to 2 for Space Station. That being said, it's hard to bet against Space Station.
Do it.
Oh, I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Space Station. Dark Zero's streak of making lands gets
Gets what?
snapped.
Oh,
It is snapped.
SSG
It's
then.
gone by SSG. I'm going to take Space Station. Grant Triple's going to clip this and he's going to send it to me in my DMs for like a week straight if they make it.
Yeah. We'll see. And yes, Sprabuni is making a good point. Like, Good Boys is a little bit of an unknown situation, but look, I think Damwon know Sandbox, Good Boy or not, they know Sandbox too well. And Damwon has like a wealth more experience recent times. And that's what I think matters more. They understand the modern game a little bit more. That's my reasoning, but it could happen on the day itself.
And now, Birdman handrub.gif. It's time for EU, where we are going to have the spiciest take. Rogue G2 LFO BDS don't make it.
Is that all happening this week?
No,
it's
next
week.
week.
It's just this week. This week's only one game, right?
I mean, I thought we were
Actually, next
predicting.
week, no.
I thought we were predicting
Next
major spots.
Oh, I was just predicting
Heroic
this
have Heroic have qualified. I'm taking Rogue to qualify. I'm taking G2 to qualify, and I'm taking LFO to qualify. I don't think BDS may.
I think that makes sense. BDS their hopes lie on G2. And they play G2 and I don't see them beating G2. They needed 3 clutches to beat Team Secret and just about beat Regulation.
That G2 BDS game
with the coach.
That G2 BDS game on that final Monday. Circle that one. That might be a decider. That might be a play-in game.
I can't see
very good chance,
both teams making it to the top 4. Honestly, I think one of them is going to miss out on the major.
Outsiders makes an outsiders run and sneaks in.
Yeah,
could happen. 6 points.
Well, that would sure make us look like a bunch of idiots.
I mean, it's in the name. They are the outsiders of all of this. But yeah, David, Brazil. What are your thoughts? Sorry, Copa Elite Six. What am I saying?
Yeah, the easy answer is saying all the Brazilian teams. Like, this is the easy answer. But let's make it a bit spicy.
Oh no.
Who do you think has like the highest upset chances? I guess that becomes a question now, right?
Maybe looking at the Brazilian teams, if someone misses out on the major, I think it's going to be Team 1 or Furia. Let's say that Furia misses out. Let's say that Furia misses
Twister
out.
in the DMs.
First of all, I think that they are going to. I think that everyone from Brazil is going to make it through, but I don't want to go with this easy answer. Although it's the more realistic one.
Realistically, yeah.
Well, go with it.
But then I would say maybe. Six Karma has a really strong chance, maybe. Six Karma, or even Furious Gaming. It really.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be on the upper half of the bracket, like
David.
That is it.
David,
yeah.
How do they have a very strong chance? Maybe. I've got to ask you to clarify.
Six Karma. Because I think that Furia right now is the weakest of the 4 options from Brazil, and they are facing Furia. Six Karma has many, like all Funky, Crespo, Robbie, Skimzy, Morphet, and Pixie. They are players with plenty of experience in Mexico. They are insanely good. And Furia is a roster that has already lost to Mexican teams.
That's true.
So it could happen. There's a realistic shot at it, but again, this is a best of 3 match, and Brazilian teams are ahead of Mexican and South American teams, so it shouldn't happen. But if it happens somewhere,
Yeah.
this
It'll be
is the
6 karma.
place it could
Okay.
happen. Yeah,
That's fair.
I think so.
Well,
That's all.
Yep.
That's all our regions.
yeah, that's
Mhm.
pretty much it. That's all for this week, and a little bit of a preview of next week. We'll be back next week at the very same time. That is 1:30 p.m. UTC, 9:30 a.m. On the eastern side of USA.
The
I
guest.
think it's Well, Hunter won't be here. We might have someone else, or it might be just David and I. We'll see. At
Mhm.
least it'll be good to be free of the NA copium for a little bit.
I'll be
Mhm.
I'll be in Kansas City doing some shoe leather reporting on a grand North American classic esport.
Halo. Go check out our
Mm.
sister site, forerunner.gg, if you want to follow what's happening in Halo esports. And obviously, come back to SiegeGG Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and obviously our website itself. All of the stuff is going to get ramped up in anticipation of the Charlotte Major. Stay tuned and thank you everyone for coming and joining us. Thank you for the very lively discussion I've been seeing in chat. And pretty much that is it for us for this week's show. And we'll catch you next week at the same time. See ya.